topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show. Hey, we are targeting many states today. We're targeting California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Colorado. We are so excited about this show that we have made it into a 50-minute show. And actually, what's going to be so great about it, we're going to be replaying it again each month also. So it's actually going to be 2 shows a month. And I got to tell you, we received so many of your emails asking us if we would add a public adjuster to our show. And I can understand why there's so many people who do not understand what a public insurance adjuster does. And we are so blessed that we were able to find one of the top companies, Crown Adjusting, and we're just so excited to have them. Let me introduce you to our expert, Robert Crown. Good afternoon, Robert.
How do you do, everyone? Pleasure to be
Big
here.
show, 50-minute show today.
Think I'll run out of things to talk about?
No. I got to tell you, I was telling Robert that he did so well on his first show that one of his competitors was listening to the show and called us wanting to do a show like his. And that's a compliment to you, Robert, on how well you did. And maybe in the coming months, you'll have Joseph Fernandez on maybe in the coming months. He is busy at work. And, I first of all, tell people about Crown Adjusting.
Okay. Joseph may surprise us by breaking free. We could talk at length about what he's doing, and it would be.
We understand why he's busy.
Public adjusters are hired as consultants to help a policyholder through a complex insurance claim. And we provide a service. It's really multifold in terms of what we're there to do. We're certainly advocates first and foremost. Public adjusters are licensed in about 48 states. And we're numerous. We're probably very busy in every state of the union helping consumers navigate their way through an insurance claim because, frankly, they don't really have a lot of experience with it. And public adjusters are also licensed, trained, bonded, and insured to take charge of a claim when a consumer needs help.
Robert, you said on our complex claims, but the whole premise behind these homeowner insurance plans is to pay the least amount possible. So does it only have to be a complex claim?
Well, I would argue that if you've never been through it before, they're all complex.
Yes.
and maybe our profession is the most misunderstood because people are, on the face of it, hopeful and optimistic that their insurance company is going to treat them right. And I don't think the profession benefits by us scaring people into hiring us because that's not productive. Plus, insurance companies have real human beings working for them. And I think that everybody that is out there trying to help, someone that's just suffered a fire loss is is and wants to do the right thing, but how you approach it and where your loyalties lie is really what's at issue for whether it makes sense to have a public adjuster or to navigate it completely on your own, which we don't advise. But it's not that people aren't welcome to try.
Robert, 10 years ago, I had a claim, and I'm a layman, like most people are. I don't know what, a leak doing damage to my kitchen is worth. I almost, at the time, felt like I had to go with what they offered me. And they gave me an offer, and I didn't think it was fair, but, they're the experts. This is how people think. And a friend of mine said, "Did you get a public adjuster to help you?" And the first thing I says, "What is a public adjuster?" Had no idea. And that was 10 years ago, and there's still today people who don't understand what you do. But I got to tell you, I hired a public adjuster, and they showed me things that I had no earthly idea about. And they were able to get me, this is amazing, about $60,000 more than I could have done on my own. And so I am such an advocate for public adjusters.
Well, I'm glad you had a good experience, and most people do. Frequently people will ask me, I understand what you do and you're practiced at it, but how do I know you're going to earn your fee? You'd have to have an alternative universe to know where you're going to end up with one or without one. But safe to say, most of the time, if not all the time, we're able to add sufficient value that the amount that we're going to charge is built into the settlement. And we are pretty well versed in policy language. Some public adjusters are attorneys, and certainly we work very closely with attorneys, even when they're not PAs. But attorneys don't go in and roll up their sleeves and evaluate the extent of damage. They don't necessarily help a consumer with property inventories, whether it's business personal property or residential property. And, you're dealing with, in as much as you might meet a public adjuster that you don't know, you're also meeting insurance company representatives, whether they're staff adjusters or independent adjusters. You don't know them from Adam either.
Right.
And in the market that we're in right now, especially in California, we have adjusters, independent adjusters coming in from all over the country to service claims, and they don't really have an understanding of the California market, where cost of reconstruction repair are over the top. And we have to educate these gentlemen and women on what is customary costs here in California. And then a lot of what we do is especially if we're dealing with a building that's burned to the ground, you have to recreate the conditions that existed 1 minute before that fire destroyed what was standing. And that involves other expertise too. It involves designers, architects, engineers, land surveyors sometimes. So you really have to look at where the consumer is at. That's where you start. And first and foremost, you start with the policy coverage. Policies don't cover everything.
Right. And, we hear so many stories, especially in California, what's going on in California with the fires. Gosh, you get these rains where there's landslides. So you're right there. You're right there in the war zone. What is going on with the fires?
Well,
though they're out, but what is going now? It's cleanup time.
Yes, the cleanup is ongoing, and many people have their properties being stripped of all of the debris. There's a protocol for addressing hazardous materials. The insurance companies are bringing in their own consultants to value the demolition. And then some of these properties are contaminated, so you need licensed abatement contractors for lead, asbestos, and other chemicals. That is ongoing. That's what's happening right now. And it may be several months before those sites are clear. And then you've also got people that have partial losses living in the midst of a disaster zone, and many of them have smoke damage. So everybody is starting with figuring out whether their home is livable, what it will take to restore it, if it's mostly cosmetic and smoke damage, which is challenging in and of itself. And then a lot of people don't know what they want to do, and they may not know for 6 months to a year, because it's dependent on how much of their policy benefits are agreed upon. Many of those folks are, contemplating not rebuilding, while many of them will. And I, having spent time in Southern California, I think there's a genuine affection and affinity for the people that have been in Los Angeles for the last 30 to 40 years, and also in Altadena. It's a human story, and it's compelling. So I could understand why anyone, almost at any age, would want to go home and come back. A community is only as strong as the people that live in it. And I think leadership is called for, as well as very good information for the people that are navigating their way.
We just got a text from Ray in Malibu. Are you going to be talking today about businesses too? Because we are talking, there have been businesses who've been affected by this.
Yes, to the extent that we are going to segue into commercial claims in terms of the realty, the building itself, business personal property, tools and equipment, and all of what it's going to involve. Of course, commercial claims require a similar degree of expertise, but they're very much about proving your loss to an insurance company representative who doesn't understand your business, who may not be handling the business interruption and extra expense. Our firm deals with commercial claims, but the lion's share of what we do is in residential and or commercial buildings that are held for rent. There are other firms that specialize in commercial claims. We have been privileged to represent many of them, but that's over the course of the last 20 years.
What are you seeing when it comes to, because we hear about on the news that a lot of people lost their insurance, their homeowners insurance, and that some of them didn't even realize it. Are you seeing any of that yet?
I've talked to a number of people whose policies had either lapsed or they got dropped and they weren't able to get insurance in time. So those are very unfortunate folks that will immediately apply for relief from FEMA and or SBA if they come in and help bridge the gap for the people that don't have enough insurance to begin with. And there's a fantastic effort afoot to have GoFundMe pick up some of the slack. And of course, there's been a number of live events in Los Angeles, fundraisers. And so people are ultimately going to do the best they can do. I have, I do my own due diligence before I can make a commitment to a client, because many of the folks do find themselves with while they have coverage, they don't know whether it's sufficient. And they're consulting with public adjusters to figure out, do I need one? Can I afford to hire one? So I think the policyholder has to do their own due diligence to figure that out.
How do you get paid, Robert?
Public adjusters work on a contingency fee basis. It's certainly negotiable, but it's typically around 10%. And of course, we have the responsibility for putting together the expertise, including consultants, to help our clients navigate their way through this process. And to the extent that they haven't really decided whether they're going to rebuild or not, we bring in construction consultants and engineers when it's appropriate to document and provide the analytics to put a number on a piece of paper that we can defend when the insurance company comes back and says, well, that's nice, Mr. Crown, but we don't believe we owe that. So in anticipation of getting any kind of pushback, we have to have a well-documented claim presentation.
Greg just wrote in, it's about time someone does a show like this, but this is our second show. We did a show last month. He wants to know, when should you contact a public adjuster?
Well, a lot of people will contact a public adjuster when they know they're in over their head and they have a problem, or their claim is sitting on a shelf at the insurance company's office and nothing's happening. The time to consult with a public adjuster is probably soon after a unfortunate calamity. Many people do, and they're not necessarily convinced that they need one, but they're learning more about the process. I think for the purposes of figuring out who has something to offer and how they might be a better equipped to represent the individual homeowner or property owner, the time is in the beginning. If there are deficiencies in the coverage and or exclusions, you want to be aware of them, as does the public adjuster. You have a checklist of things that you're concerned about. Where do you start? Even if you didn't make a commitment to hire me or another PA, you would garner a much better understanding of what we do. It's not easy to explain to most people. They only know that we come in with white hats and offer a service that's designed to offset and provide a benefit to the consumer when they end up negotiating with the insurance company. But if they hire a public adjuster, they don't have to do the negotiation. We do. That's our job.
Right. I want to just remind everybody, we are targeting California, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. And especially California. If you are listening or watching the show today and you have a friend that's going through all the hassles with the homeowner, the insurance companies, I really want you to, we're running the phone number on the scroll, but I know most of you listen on iHeart and Spotify and Facebook. Give them your phone number, Robert, for those who are listening.
It's 415-999-5519. And my colleague is Joseph Fernandez. He may or may not be joining us, but his number is 925-361-2994. And our emails are robert@crownadjusting.com, and Joseph's is joseph@crownadjusting.com. You've got a typo on the scroll there, Stephen. You got two A's on at least one of the links. It's I think it's on Joseph's. No, maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, I see.
I see. It's in the website actually.
Yes,
it's
crownadjusting.com.
Yeah. One A. Not the end of the world. People can find us.
It's funny, when you put a website down, they don't show you misspelled on there.
There are many public adjusters in Southern California now. Part of it is what business model is most appealing to a consumer, because there are larger firms that have a large staff, and some of them are sales representatives, some of them are adjusters, some of them do personal property inventories. That's all they do. I'd say we are a boutique alternative to some of the larger firms in the states where we're doing business. And a lot of our business, I'm sorry, is on referral.
You you mentioned something. The California laws, and I'm a company who listened to your show, who enjoyed it very much so, who wanted to do a show. They're out of Texas, and they wanted to come to California. And I'm thinking about now, these people probably don't even know all the regulations and laws there are in California. You know this because you work California.
Geography and where you're located has a lot to do with how successful you'll be, but the laws that are typical for California are a little different. More importantly, in a FEMA declared event, especially in California, it's very specific as to what the insurance companies are required to do. So that is certainly relevant to all the folks that lost their homes in Pacific Palisades and Altadena.
Chuck just wrote in, really enjoying the show. I'm working with FEMA right now. I guess he had damage done. Do you negotiate with FEMA also, or just the insurance companies?
FEMA is they come in for sort of declaratory relief. They are offering grants and funding for folks that more than likely don't have enough coverage to begin with. And FEMA is helping to orchestrate the cleanup through the Army Corps of Engineers. They are the first responders in a calamity like this, besides the local fire departments, but they come in to assess what they can do to help navigate this process too.
Have they come up with a number of how many homes were lost?
I know there's a number, and I think it's between commercial and residential, I know it's over 12,000.
Wow, that's amazing! Oh my God, that is.
No, this is unprecedented. It's the largest calamity disaster that the United States has experienced. I mean, there's been any number of them over the years, but I don't even know if the earthquake in 1906 did as much damage as these fires have done in Southern California. At least dollar-wise, I don't believe so.
Yeah, because we get reports. We're here in Florida, but we know that a lot of people wrote us wanting a show like this. We talk about the fires, but you, as an adjuster, you also work on other type cases. It's not just fires.
No, we do. We get called on water damage claims pretty routinely, theft and vandalism claims, and some of them are quite unusual. A contractor is finishing up a job, and the water is left on. The homeowner's out of the country, or they're not around to manage this, and then you've got the contractor being responsible for some of the damage, and also the policyholder's insurance company. So there's kind of overlapping liability, and some may have issues with not that the contractor isn't liable for it, but what they're going to pay for, or what their own insurance company is going to pay for. That's essentially a third-party claim when someone else is held responsible for the damage.
So there's people who've had other claims in the past. If you've signed off on a claim and you hear a show like this, and you go, you know what, I don't feel like I got a fair claim. Is there any way people can come back if they've already signed off on a settlement?
Well, there's typically a statute of limitations for filing a claim and for concluding a claim, but I think you could always attempt to reopen it and see what the insurance company has to say. As well as with an insurance company that isn't treating you right, you also have a limited period of time in which you can file suit if you are intending to preserve your right to go after the insurance company for unfair business practices.
So if the insurance company has made an offer, can they still come in and retain your services?
Absolutely. Sometimes we get called in the middle of a claim because the insured is absolutely adamant that the insurance company has not valued the loss correctly, and they really don't necessarily know where to start. So, or what they're going to do to make it abundantly clear to the insurance company that they owe a lot more. That's a different type of claim because we, end up coming in and we have to evaluate it carefully because we will charge a fee, but it's going to be based on new money. And in some places, in some states, there's limitations on just how much you can charge. Even in California, they're looking to institute some fee caps, which as an industry or as an organization, the California public adjusters are trying to work with legislators to make that reasonable, because if they limit the amount of a fee and the people really do need help, if a public adjuster can't really earn their fee because there's too much expense associated with putting it together, those people are not going to get the help they need.
Cynthia just wrote, I know you might not want to degrade other public adjusters, but I've had one working my claim for almost a year. Is there a way that I can get out of that and hire your company?
That's a question. Can I plead the fifth? That's what I would say.
Is a year a long time, Robert?
Well, I've been in the business for a long time. I've been in the business since 1985. I do get calls about folks not being happy with the public adjuster that's representing them. And I always tell them to start with that person. And if you're looking to separate yourself, you would have to talk to them about what they're willing to do to agree to a separation, because most people might want to be charged for their time. And I normally, as diplomatically as possible, I will tell them what they need to do, but that I will not continue to talk to them at length about how to get rid of the other guy. Not because I just wouldn't want it done to me, but it's an illegal interference if you are saying anything that is problematic for that public adjuster's agreement with the consumer. It's interference, no different than me being hired by an insurance company, and the day after I'm hired, the insurance company adjuster is on the phone with the consumer saying, "You don't need a public adjuster. You're going to end up paying them 10% of what we're going to give you." And that I have some choice things to say about that too, but we tend to get much more accomplished with sugar and honey than vinegar. But the laws are fairly clear on what constitutes tortious interference in a commercial contract. So there are ways of separating from a public adjuster, and some of them are, if you're dealing with a reputable public adjuster and they know you're not happy, why would they want to continue to represent you other than being paid for their time and their energy? I think depending on the firm and the person that's doing the work, if it's as important to them as it is to me to have a happy customer, you work tirelessly to make sure you can make them happy. Not that everybody is easy to make happy, but
I knew, because you're really a good guy. I knew that would be your response. You're very above board. The way your fee structure is, I wouldn't have expected you to answer any different. Um,
Well,
so just
I do sometimes, but to have such a broad audience and then have somebody say, "Oh, that crown guy, he's telling people how to get rid of us." I think that I say other things, but I don't try
well,
to
we
but
never
I don't.
know what our listeners or viewers are going to ask, and we try to get all your questions. I thought that was a pretty good question, though. Um,
Well, how'd you like the answer?
I thought, like I said, I wouldn't expect you to answer any different. You're a good guy. So
I have a
just to remind people, how do you know that you're going to earn your fee and secure a settlement greater than what they could get on their own? Let's just go over that again.
Having a public adjuster is not right for everybody because some people will want to go down that road. They'll want to take it as far as they can on their own. And then as they get into it, they realize they're in over their head. That's when they want to get somebody like me involved. When I come under the radar for a prospective client, what I like to do for my own peace of mind is talk to them, look at their coverage, and at least give them some valuable advice in terms of how they're going to handle it. Because I have found, and I'm not going to speak for my competitors, there are many, many people that need help. But in terms of how you're going to charge them and how your fee is going to be structured, hiring a public adjuster when you don't have even half as much insurance as you need to rebuild your house, that's a problem.
Yes.
I mean, you'd be paying a fee on money that you would ultimately get without one, and then you're selling a different service. You're saying to a prospective client, and this is how I deal with it. I'm not sure how my competitors deal with it. And it's different when you're actually the person doing the work as opposed to a sales representative. But I look at the coverage and I make a determination before I even agree to represent someone. Hey, this is how you're insured. I know you may need my help to get you to the finish line, but in my opinion, you do not have enough insurance to begin with. And then it becomes a problem because you're going to pay X amount of dollars off of what might be an underinsured limit, but you would have to charge that because it costs money to put the claim together. And what about all the time that I might spend on my client's behalf? It would be for nothing, really. So you tend to talk to clients, if you're smart about it, you would tell a prospective client, look, I don't think you have enough insurance, but you still may need me to get to the policy limit. Here's what I'm going to charge you. And then the consumer has to look at what they might end up be paying and be comfortable with it. If I have that conversation, then I don't worry about it because my client has tacitly acknowledged, Mr. Crown, I really appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to look at our coverage. We know you're going to treat us right. I want to do the best you can because we don't have the bandwidth to handle it. And, someone that's, in their 80s or more that doesn't immediately have family and friends that can help them through this, they might be a perfect client for a public adjuster because they're not going to get their claim resolved without somebody advocating for them.
How much are you surprised about the amount of people who don't even know what's in their policy?
That's a great question. Yes and no. I think our world is we're so busy, and many times, I mean, this for the first time in my career, have I gotten calls from people that have not lost their home, but have the bandwidth. They actually either they've heard of public adjusting or they thought, well, maybe I should talk to one of these guys that deals with insurance companies. wouldn't they be a good person to consult with to find out if they're insured properly? So I actually applaud them, because I don't get those calls frequently. And so to answer your question, yes, it is a little surprising that many people do not understand what's in their policy. And more, they're asking, especially in California. And, everything's really changing here too. I know that State Farm was just granted, the right to increase their rates by 22.5%. Prior to that recent approval by the California Department of Insurance, California was leaving and not planning on coming back.
Yeah, we heard about State Farm. They were denied the first time, is that right? And they pulled out?
They did start canceling policies or not renewing them, and that created quite a hullabaloo. It's a market, in terms of the market coming in California, the regulations are really consumer oriented. And so most of these companies that are doing business in California are A-rated, and they get the blessing from the insurance department to do business here because they meet a certain reserve threshold. They have the money to pay these claims. But I think everyone's rates are going to go up over the next several years. Anybody doing business in California.
What's amazing, Robert, is you do so much work before you realize your first dime, don't you?
You do so much work before you realize no dime.
Yeah, it could be no dime. That's right.
I think in part, when you're building relationships in business and in life, it's based on your integrity and what motivates you. And, doing the right thing holds different value to different people. The people that have been in business for the longest and have, many recommendations for people that they know who have used a public adjuster, or they are still doing business in California, they go to the people that have already gone through this with the expectation, well, they did a good job for my friend. Hopefully they'll do right by me. But, you also want to meet the people that are doing the work.
I'm going to tell you something. This is our 15th year of Ask the Experts. And when I first started the company, Yellow Pages were still big, and people would choose a contractor by whoever had the largest ad. Didn't mean they were the best but whoever. And nowadays people are choosing by websites, which is so sad. And that's why a show like this is so important. We're bringing a public adjuster with years of experience, who I've learned just from all the conversations we've had, that he's a very fair person and that he's not going to leave any money on the table. We just got a person just wrote in wanting to know what the difference is in a public adjuster and an attorney handling your case.
Well, I could talk about my past experience having worked with a very large firm. The California Bar had a fire and they hired a public adjuster. The nuance of property claims, it is beneficial to understand a contract. So lawyers do understand policies, but the practice of dealing with insurance claims is understanding how the policy is interpreted, and more importantly, what an insurance company does as a matter of practice in handling their own claims. So a State Farm is different than a AAA, and a Safeco Insurance is different than, some of the Travelers. A Chubb is different than, a Farmers. And many of these insurance companies charge a commensurate premium because they operate a little differently than some of the other insurance companies. Farmers, for example, you could have a problem with a farmer's claim, but generally I find them to be, extremely responsible. You could handle, I could have great experience with a company like Farmers, and then have one adjuster who thinks the money's coming out of his pocket. So it really is different. There's no rule of thumb in terms of how people are going to be treated.
Is each state, we're covering 5 states, does each state have their own regulations? Is like Nevada different from California, say, or Colorado?
For the most part, and the departments of insurance operate a little differently as well. Some states have licensing requirements where you have to live in the state. Some states have reciprocity, so that a public adjuster licensed in California can represent someone in Nevada and holds a Nevada license as well. So, it is important that people meet the minimum threshold in California, especially if you're part of the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. We sort of vet our own to make sure that the public adjuster who's licensed comes into the business with a high degree of professional training. They meet all of their continuing education credits, and the tests to become public adjusters. It's not an easy test to pass, but you could come from a construction background and eventually become a public adjuster. Attorneys also carry public adjuster licenses. So it really depends on your background.
I actually hate to do this to you because I know you're very humble, but I know there's people out there going, how do I know with your company that my file's going to get all the time and attention it needs?
It's a great question. Since I self-regulate the business that I handle with my colleague Joseph, all I can tell people is check my references and talk to some people that have been through this before. That's not to say people won't have a problem if they feel their claim is languishing, but the only way you get really good references is to be responsible to do what you say you're going to do, and to also provide enough ongoing dialogue, written dialogue, for the client to know that they're not being forgotten, to know that there's ongoing communications with the insurance company, and to know what to expect. Does that mean that you look back over the claim file and you realize, holy mackerel, it's 8 months already, and we still have $100,000 difference between the insurance company's number and ours? But looking back, it probably would be longer than 8 months, but looking back, that claim might have started at a fraction of what it should be. I mean, we've had claims that have started at $25,000 that ended up being $300,000.
Wow, that's a big difference.
And it's not the insurance company's aim to cheat you, but for every, we don't handle a large volume of claims. I've been in the business for a long time. Some people they like the fact that they are going with a large company because that company provides a lot of claim support for the number of files that they handle. But ultimately, the person that's adjusting the claim is responsible to the customer, and it's that person's job to get them to the finish line. I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to hire a contractor, I want to meet the guy that is going to do the work, even if it's not the owner there every day. I want to know that they're on it, and that the person that is managing the project is someone that I can rely upon to get the job done. And that's how we market our service.
I love that. So I'm going to ask the final question. We've got a few minutes left. If
Really?
I've had damage to my home or my business, but we've been talking about the fires today, why should I hire your company?
Well, I think you need to ask the question, are you going to hire anyone?
Yes.
Number one,
Let's say they are. Okay.
are you properly insured? Number two, and then is the person that is holding their credential out to you the best person to handle your claim? I can only speak to the successes I've had in the past, and that's not to say that we don't have problems with some of the claims we handle. Every public adjuster does.
Right.
And frequently they'll tell you all of their war stories, how great it turned out. I also tell people about my own disappointments on claims that I handled with my client. And occasionally I will have that person who's interested in hiring me talk to that client, because the bottom line for most people, if they see that you're working your tail off to do the very best job you can, then they genuinely have an appreciation for the effort you brought forth. Some insurance companies don't pay what they should. Some claims go to appraisal, which I hope we'll talk about in future shows. But getting the job done is really not done by 10 people when the lion's share of the work is being done by one person. And delegating responsibility to others, that's a challenge in and of itself. I've chosen to be a small company for other reasons. And some people want to grow their business. They want to have, 10 other associates, licensed public adjusters handling more volume because they're going to make more money. That's good for them. That's what they want to do. But you have choices. And it's always beneficial for people to not so much shop, because they'll end up shopping price, but to know that they have choices, and that hiring a public adjuster is not the only way to get your claim resolved. You could hire an attorney. You could you hitch your wagon to a contractor who says that they can get you through it, but that doesn't mean that they will, and it doesn't even mean that they can. So you can hear other sides of the story to make the right decision. The right decision is the best decision for you.
Tell people how they can reach you.
You can find us at crownadjusting.com. And my number is 415-999-5519. Just shoot me an email at robert@crownadjusting.com. You can contact my colleague, Joseph Fernandez, joseph@crownadjusting.com. We do a lot of consulting too. When it's appropriate, on occasion, we will work on an hourly to help our client get through at least an obstacle that might get them going in the right direction, when there are other options for getting the job or getting the claim back on track. But that has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
Robert and I had spoke about his first show was a 25-minute show, and we got all these text messages. The show wasn't long enough, and so we increased it to 50 minutes. And I just looked at I can't believe how fast the show went by. Robert, we are so lucky to have you. The state of California and your other states are so lucky to have a company like yours, and you'll be back again with us next month. And I'm so glad we've got you. This is such an important topic that a lot of people don't understand if they've never hired a public adjuster. So kudos to you.
Well, maybe as time permits, maybe we can bring a sample claim to the discussion to give people a more nuanced appreciation for what we do.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
And if Joseph was available today, we would probably be talking about what progress he's making or will make. And maybe that should be the topic of the next show, because the insurance company is challenging a position we have on a pretty significant fire damaged home. And we're advocating to strip the entire home to the studs, and they think that they can clean the walls and save the walls. So, and that would be a big ticket item in an insurance claim for a 3,000 square foot house. How do we win those arguments? And how do we position ourselves to win when we've got an intransigent insurance company that is interpreting, or their understanding of the necessary repairs are different than ours? That makes for interesting conversation, someone that doesn't really know what we do.
Well, we'll see you next month. Thank you, Robert.
My pleasure.
That's
Robert
Brown Adjusting. And that's it for us today. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts. Thank you, Juan.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.